Hey everybody, it's Lynn from A Bit of Birdsong. I know it's late in the day. It is Wednesday. I've been off today and I wanted to get on here and show you just a few things. I did buy 3 of these little packs today. I know I was telling you about these sleeves that are full of basically scraps of yarn. So they roll the yarn up into tiny balls of yarn and then it's just assorted. And you've already seen what I do with these. I just go ahead and crochet whatever the color is. I use it to make a granny square. And basically a granny square is all I remember how to do. And I'm fine with that. I'm going to have granny squares everywhere. This is another fun thing. I haven't opened it yet. Now, I think this is really reasonable for $1. It's $1. It doesn't take that long to make a granny square, so you're kind of paying for the experience as well as just the fun of it. This was a little more pricey. It's heavier than it looks. Now this was $7. It's 3 ounces. Part of it is just the appeal of not knowing what's inside. A magic yarn ball. No one knows what colors lurk inside. This yarn on the outside, that's what got me, because I think this would be so pretty in a Fiber Arts pack. So let me just put that to the side. There's that. I'll try to show you what ends up being inside of here. I found some beautiful things today. Some buttons, a lot more fabric. I don't know if I've added anything else to this since, oh, I did add this little wooden charm, a little beetle, and I did use a stencil to spray, what did I use? The Distress Mica Stain and Decayed, that's the color, to put that dragonfly on there. And I don't think there's anything else in here. But let me go ahead and share what these packs look like. I'm going to go ahead and list those in Etsy. I have, I think, three people who asked for packs. You can just go ahead and order from the main listing. And I'm not gonna list everything. I'm gonna reserve a few to cover those 3 people. So if I see you order, I'll just bump up my inventory number again by 1, if that makes sense. So yeah, you can just order from that listing on there. Each one is wrapped in this pretty piece of fabric that is covered in bright butterflies. So you may or may not want to include that in the current fabric journal if you're going to make one. It's funny how I started this off with just the light colors, the whites, and then I ended up adding more colors. There's a container here, little plastic container, and in that we have some spools of thread, 4 different colors here. We've got sort of a burgundy or I guess it's not, that's more like a plum, I guess, and pink. And we have this yellow and this pretty color of green. Here's a pink button. There's 3 wooden buttons and probably, I think it's 10 beads. I think that's what I went with. Just pretty, they're glass. They're pretty glass beads. And then we have 3. This one has 4. I think I tried to go with 3. So some may have extra. It may be 4. 3 or 4 of these cute little paper tickets that somebody created and stamped. I found a whole bunch of these at the thrift store, so I went ahead and bought them. So, and then a little wooden, it's a bead basically. You're going to get just one. It'll either be a butterfly or a beetle. This one happens to have a beetle. And then we have flower petals, which I already showed you, these amazing petals that I found. Just a whole bunch of those, and I ended up, what I did with mine was take about 4 of the largest ones and I sewed around that with the sewing machine to hold those in place. And I'm glad that I did that because it was a little bit tedious. This fabric is really slick and it wants to slide around. I can't get that to lay flat. So after I sewed that together, I came back with the rest of it. So I had sewed a circle to hold these down. Then I came back with those. And that is the huge flower on the front of this book. And then, of course, I layered some other things on top. So we have the flower petals. Here's a little paper tag. There's bits of fabric that are small, bits of fabric that are larger, tiny little piece of denim that you could make a pocket. There's some twine. And I love this pretty velvet ribbon. This is vintage, and there were a couple of pieces that had tiny little holes in them. I thought it just added to the character, but they're old, so don't worry. I mean, it's just part of the fact that it's vintage. And also that a bug might have chewed a hole in it, because this is Bugs and Roses, remember. So here's a card, a little thread card that's got some eyelash yarn. And then we have another card that's got some pretty embroidery thread in that pretty color. There's a few more pieces of lace. Here's some vintage. That's tatting, I think. And there's that. You'll get at least one piece of this. I see an extra piece laying here, so I'm just going to leave it. But I believe each one, and there's another flower petal there. So we've got this pretty piece. And here's a piece of cotton with pretty polka dots. That reminds me of little bugs, like the polka dots on the back. Oops. And we have this pretty piece of butterfly fabric. I would say this is a little bit, this is about 4 by 6, maybe a little bit bigger. There's a piece of ticking and then a piece of burlap. This is a really pretty piece of fabric. It's very silky, and you can see it's got the moths on it, butterflies and moths. There's a piece of the fabric that I stained and then hung it out in the backyard to dry. And then we have this larger piece of bug fabric that kind of started the whole thing. So that is in there. And we have this. So pretty. That's a nice heavy upholstery fabric, good for making pages. We have these 2 little pieces of fabric. This is very fibery, is what I'll call it. It's heavy with a lot of texture. Now this, it's bright red in this pack, but it's gonna vary because that came from a pretty vintage piece of fabric. Some of the spots have more like a turquoise and lighter colors, but it's all pretty, all of it. And sometimes it's fun just to get a surprise. Then here's a heavy piece of upholstery fabric, a lot of texture to that. We have this yellow piece with the flowers. And then we have this piece, which is probably about 6 by 6. That's a really textured piece of fabric. They're great for making fabric pages. And then we have this large piece. It's really pretty, very vintage looking. It's been washed, so it's clean. I don't know if this was an upholstery fabric that had been used to cover something and then was donated, but it feels vintage. It's very soft, but it's a heavy enough fabric that I think it works great for the fabric journals. So that is in there as well. So that is that pack. This is the Fiber Arts Friday pack for, I'll probably just date it for, 2 days from now, because I doubt I will get another one listed on Friday. I may be back Friday with something I've started, and I've already got things to work on the next fabric pack. But this is the one that's listed currently, where I showed you the flowers and everything. Again, this is listed in my Etsy shop. I will include the link. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back really soon, and bye for now.